What's the worst way your parents tried to control you? My parents told me to choose my N-word boyfriend or this family. I stared at them in disbelief. If you marry that gorilla, you're dead to us. No inheritance, nothing. But Michael is a doctor, I responded. He volunteers at church. He loves me. He's black, my mother said. Like that erased everything else. That's all that matters. Fine. I stood up, took off the family heirloom necklace my grandmother gave me, and set it on the table. Keep your inheritance. I choose love. What my parents didn't know was that Michael's father, William, was the CEO of the pharmaceutical company where my dad worked as regional manager for 20 years. My mom was the head of HR at their subsidiary. William had been quietly protecting them for the past 5 years. He'd buried every single complaint my father had against him. His legal team had been silently handling my mother screwing with reports. All as a favor to me, his future daughter-in-law. The Monday after I left, my father arrived at work to find his keycard deactivated. Security escorted him out with a cardboard box. Retroactive termination for creating a hostile work environment. 20 years of pension, gone. Stock options, voided. The official termination letter cited 14 incidents, all with dates, witnesses, and his own emails attached. My mother lasted until Wednesday. Federal investigators showed up with her falsified reports. She was given 2 choices: resign immediately with no severance or face federal charges. She resigned. They had 48 hours to vacate company housing they'd been living in rent-free. Week 2 was the domino effect. Without income, they couldn't pay for their foster children's specialized therapy. The state requires proof of financial stability for foster parents. The social worker came for a routine check and found my mother day drinking at 10 a.m., my father punching holes in walls. The boys, who they'd been fostering for adoption proceedings, were removed immediately. Their church found out why they'd really been fired that same week. The pastor asked them to take a break from their leadership roles. My father had been a deacon for 15 years. My mother ran the women's ministry. Their entire social circle was through church. Suddenly, no one was returning their calls. Their Wednesday Bible study group met without them. The church harvest festival they'd organized for a decade happened with new organizers. Week 3, the financial collapse accelerated. They tried to refinance the house but couldn't without jobs. The mortgage they'd been skating on with company bonuses was suddenly impossible. My father's brother, who'd borrowed $50,000 for his business with the promise of paying it back when things improved, blocked their calls. My mother's sister, who they'd co-signed a loan for, declared bankruptcy, destroying their credit in the process. The country club canceled their membership for non-payment. My father's golf buddies, all work connections, vanished. Then the health insurance ran out. My mother's diabetes medication cost $900 a month without coverage. My father's blood pressure pills, another $400. They tried to apply for marketplace insurance, but the only available plan cost $2,000 a month with their pre-existing conditions. My mother started rationing insulin. My father stopped taking his medication entirely. Within 2 weeks, my mother was in the ER with diabetic ketoacidosis. The bill was $48,000. My father's blood pressure spiked so high he had a minor stroke in the hospital parking lot. Another $62,000. Week 4 brought the lawsuits. 3 former employees from my father's team filed discrimination suits once they heard he'd been fired. Without the company's legal protection, he was personally liable. Each suit demanded $100,000 in damages. My mother was named in a federal investigation for falsifying data. The fine was $250,000 or 5 years in prison. Their lawyer required a $50,000 retainer they didn't have. The public defender they got instead told them to prepare for the worst. The house went into foreclosure after 90 days. Their cars were repossessed the same week. My father's prized vintage Mustang he'd restored with his father was sold at auction for 1/10 of its value. They moved into my elderly grandmother's house, but she had dementia and kept calling the police reporting intruders. After the 5th false alarm, Adult Protective Services got involved. They deemed my parents exploitative for moving in and forced them to leave. They ended up in a weekly rental motel. My father got a job at a grocery store but was fired after a customer recognized him from a social media post about his termination. My mother applied to 57 jobs and got 0 callbacks. Their names were poison in the industry. The state they'd lived in for 40 years suddenly felt like enemy territory. Everyone knew what they'd done, why they'd lost everything. The racist parents who chose hate over their own daughter. 6 months later, they called me from a borrowed phone. "We're sorry," my mother sobbed. "We were wrong. Please, we need help." I remember looking over at Michael. He nodded at me. "Tell me to be there in 30. I put the phone back to my ear. Grays Avenue, Hugs Cafe, 30 minutes. I'm not waiting around. I put down the phone and me and Michael headed out the door. Full story on